Alright, well welcome to our video tour of our greenhouse. This behind us is the greenhouse. You can see the Fitch House here, and we've got our greenhouse kind of heading on an east to west axis there. It's a double layer polyfilm, inflated polyethylene film greenhouse. So come around to the other side, we'll show you the furnace and we'll go inside. Alrighty, so about 99% of our energy use is all renewable resource, wood. We hit our greenhouse with a wood burning furnace. This is the Green Monster, and it just chugs along, and we circulate water from the heater into the greenhouse and use heat exchangers to heat the place. It works pretty nicely for us, and it lowers our costs significantly. Alright, so this is our greenhouse here. We just came in through the front door, and this is kind of looking east down the rows and columns of towers here. So come on in and I'll explain how everything works. So now we're at the far end of the greenhouse, and you can see some of the new towers that have just gone in this last week, and some of the stuff that went in the week before over here. And as we move down, you'll see kind of some mature crops, usually in the rear. We do what we call conveyor production, and it gives us a little bit more production out of our space. All the towers drain down into troughs, and the troughs run down into drainage pipes like this, which run down to our sump tank. So here's our seedling production area. We plant a couple flats every week, and we just hand water. And essentially it just allows us to do all of our own plugs these days. And it's pretty handy. We get, in a few weeks, we get pretty decent seedlings that we can transplant to towers, and we're ready to go. So these are our heaters. We take the hot water from the furnace and we circulate it through these heat exchangers, and there's a blower in the back that just pumps out the heat. And this is how we keep this place nice and warm even when it's 30 below outside. This little area here is where we test our herbs, so we plant them in these 3-footers so they're not taking up a whole lot of real estate, and we just see if they'll grow. So right now we've got a lot of mint going in here. We've got some oregano, we've got chives here, and rosemary, parsley in the front, some sage up there, some thyme, and this is just kind of a place for us to try stuff out. So this is our kind of messy planting bench here. The towers are laid on this bench to be pulled and to be planted, and this is where all of the transplanting essentially takes place. So down here we've got, on this side we've got all of some greens for our CSA. We're doing a little cilantro still, a little mint over here, some fennel, and some leaf lettuces, a lot like we had down there at the very end. And this one here is my favorite in particular. This is Tropicana. It's a great lettuce variety. It forms really beautiful, nice, full, frilly leaves. On this side over here, we've got all of our stuff for our big hollow sales. So this is the stuff we're selling down at the local natural food store. And we do live sales with all this stuff. It just clips into the display and people harvest their own. So these barrels here are part of a little low-grade geothermal system we put in. There's fans in there. They pull air through some pipe that we've got about 6 feet under the ground here, and they help cool us during the summer, and they can help heat us during the winter. It's kind of a nice little emergency backup system. Underneath this cover here is our sump tank. It's just an IBC that we cut, and we've got our pump down in here, kind of the muscle behind all of our pumping and all that stuff is down in this well. And the IBC, it's kind of a nice in-ground sump, and it lets all of our towers be at ground level because it's the low point in the entire system. So everything flows to the sump. So in here we've got our fish house. Come on in and I'll show you where we keep all of our fish, or our nutrient source in this case. So this is our fish house. We keep all of our fish in these tanks here. They're plumbed in so that the water is split from the sump, and half of it goes in here and half of it goes to the plants. And it all mixes in the sump. But we've got a whole bunch of mixed age group tilapia in here. We heat them with coils from our furnace, and if you stick your head over here, you can kind of see our fish. We've got 4 of these 500-gallon tanks and a couple 800 to 1,000-gallon tanks over here, and then we keep all of our junk over there. And because we're also not on city water, we didn't have the money to put in city water. We've got an IBC that we do all of our water storage in right over there. So the system consumes so little water that we're able to basically just truck in water. You know, we're only going through 40, 60 gallons a day. You can kind of see them. We've got some of them in here are between 7 and 8 pounds. So there are some lunkers. So that's the end of the tour. Thanks for watching. And remember, if you're ever in Laramie, just give us a holler. We'd be happy to have you swing on by and we'll give you a real tour.